Hey guys, Marsningan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be doing the team building guide for the Dragon Ball Heroes EZA event, where you get to EZA the 7 Dragon Ball Heroes units. I am going to do one for 16 and 21's event as well, but I thought it made sense to do this one first, because the weakness for this one is strictly Dragon Ball Heroes, so obviously 21 and 16 can't be very useful here. But for the 16 and 21 one, the weakness is crossover. So obviously if you do this Dragon Ball Heroes one first, all of the Dragon Ball Heroes units that you've then just fully EZA'd are going to be able to be used in that 21 and 16 EZA, so definitely makes the most sense to do this one first. So unfortunately there's no page up on the wiki. They've been really bad lately about updating the wiki in a reasonable time. Like a lot of this information came out at this point over like 12 hours ago at time of recording, and the wiki still isn't updated, so there's no page for the actual EZA, but it's very much like the 7 unit one we got a long time ago. Each of the fights, you fight each of the characters for 4, 5 or 6 stages, because obviously there's an odd number, and each time you beat a stage you get the medals for every single one. So obviously you have to beat all 30 stages in order to get the final medals for all the characters. So the only thing I could see is there is no type disadvantage. Like, you know, a lot of EZAs, once you get to stage 20, certain typings just start doing no damage. But because this one you fight units of a different typing all the way through, then obviously they, I guess they can't do that quite as easily. So we're going to go through, as always, with my team building guides, my honourable picks, top mentions, and as always, if there's any units you think I should have covered in more detail or that I forgot to mention at all, let me know down below in the comments section. And if this guide is helpful at all, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so first up, it's probably pretty important to mention that unless you're, you know, desperate for another 30 stones that will get you to 50 to try another multi, obviously you should probably do your summons on the Heroes banner first, because there's a lot of units that are going to be very helpful for this EZA. Obviously, you know, all new Heroes units, so they're all going to be of the correct category. You've got units like this new Meki Cabra, who is ridiculously good, super strong nuker. He does have a crossover leader skill, which you can use if you don't have any other Heroes leaders. He is going to be incredibly powerful. And then, of course, we have the new God Trunks, who, say what you will about the unit. I made a whole thing about it yesterday. But he is going to be the best Dragon Ball Heroes leader going forwards. 4 key and 170 to stats. So, obviously, if you pull him, he is the best leader to use for this EZA. Because he's going to be on a full Heroes team, then obviously he's going to be operating at maximum efficiency. And then, of course, we have the Xeno Pan. She has a crossover leader skill, 3 key 150, which is pretty decent. And obviously she is a Dragon Ball Heroes category support unit for 40%. So she's going to be very useful to have on the team, even if you don't use her as a leader. And then obviously, like, the awakenings for the older units, like all of these characters are obviously going to be very good. They're not on the wiki because it's not updated, so I haven't brought their pages up for the team building guide. But obviously the fusions that awakened into Super Saiyan 3, the Xeno, Goku and Vegeta that awakened into Super Saiyan, the Vegeks that awakened into Super Saiyan, they're all really good. Obviously you have to go through and get the medals and awaken them if you had them already, or pull them from the banner, or using the stone or any of that other stuff. So all of these new units, obviously bear in mind that they are going to be very useful. So I would go ahead and do all of your summons before you get on to actually starting the EZA, or at least, you know, a bunch of summons, so you could maybe get some of the new units. So moving on, we have some of the actual Dragon Ball Heroes leaders that exist already. So Demon Goddess Toa is a 3 key 150 lead. She lowers attack and seals, which obviously in EZAs you can only do that for the first few stages and then it becomes unavailable. But she is a support unit. One of the reasons why she's really good for EZAs in general is once you're at 50% or less HP, she gives you a 50% heal. So if you're somebody that wants to grind this EZA way past stage 30 to get a ton of Zenny, I imagine that that ability is going to come in super useful later on. Or if you just have a pretty weaker team, like if this is your first time summoning on the Heroes banner and you just don't have that many Heroes units and you do manage to get her, she's going to be very, very useful, because if your team is a little bit weaker and you start to struggle in the later stages, that heal is going to be super, super beneficial. So next up we have Physical Super Saiyan 4 Vegito. So technically he is a crossover leader, but obviously all of the Heroes characters are in crossover, and he has 3 key and 170. So basically next to Trunks, Trunks, he would be the best leader for the team if you have him. Obviously, he's not going to be featured on the new banner. So at the time of recording, we don't know which units are available with that grey stone if you do choose to buy it. But you might be able to get him with that, or you might get lucky and pull him from the banner. And who knows, wishful thinking, maybe they will finally add heroes units with the blue coins. We don't know that yet at time of recording either. So I guess we'll have to find out. But next to Trunks, he would be the best leader. Obviously, he is super good for this event in general anyway, because he is a crossover and Giant 8 power support. So if you bring, obviously all the heroes units are crossover, but if you bring any Great Ape units as well, then he's going to be giving everyone a nice buff. He has the 50% chance to counter super attacks, which again is going to be very useful, especially because you can't heal in EZA, so completely avoiding a super attack would be really nice. And his defense is really, really good post super attack as well. So next up we have the Deborah that released last year. He's another possible stand-in lead because he has the Heroes category lead 3 key and 130. He's actually really good as well. He has a chance to built-in chance to dodge when facing 2 or more enemies, so unfortunately that is not going to work here. But when he's facing 1 enemy, he gets an extra attack and defense 100%. Now, unfortunately, he does also lower attack and defense, but obviously you can't do that after the first few turns. But having that extra attack and defense 100% against the 1 enemy is going to be really useful. He does do immense damage. He's not like the best pick for the team, but he's just another good stand-in leader if you need an actual Dragon Ball Heroes category lead. So next up we have Fu. He was the original Dragon Ball Heroes lead, 3 key and 130. So again, he's kind of outdated as a choice for the leader, but if you know, he's the only option you have, then he's pretty good. But he's actually a unit that will still be good on the team, because basically all of the heroes units, I think all of them, I don't think there's any exceptions, are on time travelers. And as long as you have a bunch of time travelers units on the team, he has a 40% chance to dodge. He also gets 4 extra key, so even if he doesn't link up super well with the rest of the team, it's not going to be too difficult to super attack with him. You have to be aware though that he gets all of his defense on super, so he's definitely not a slot 1 unit unless you want to take the risk with that 40% chance to dodge. And he definitely can be very useful. So he does immense damage as well as raising attack and defense for 1 turn. So if he gets an additional, he's definitely going to do a nice little bit of damage. And post super, his defense is actually very, very good. So next up we have Super Saiyan 3 Xeno Goku. He has a quite low Dragon Ball Heroes category leader skill, but you know, last resort I guess for a leader. But he's probably one of the top picks of units that you want to bring actually on the team. He gets attack and defense 100%, but he guards all attacks. Then he gets the extra 50% when performing a super. He does do immense damage, so he can hit reasonably well. But he reduces damage received by 7% per Heroes category ally on the team up to 35%. So obviously, because you're running a full Heroes team, it means he's going to have 35% damage reduction whilst guarding and having 100% defense. So even from a super attack, he's basically going to take no damage, even as you get towards the end. So he is a must run on this team if you have him for the EZA, I would say. Next up we have his counterpart, which is the Xeno Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Unfortunately, as often happens with Goku and Vegeta cards that are very similar, but one is more like attack based and one is more defense based, Vegeta got the short end of the stick for harder content because he's much more attack based. So unfortunately his defense is not super good. As you get towards the end of the stages, he might start to take quite a bit of damage, but he does do a lot of damage himself. Rather than damage reduction, he has a built-in chance to crit based on the heroes allies. So if you've just pulled him from the banner and you're setting him up ready to use in this, you obviously want to give him more additional in his passive. So he can be good for dealing damage, but he's just not very good defensively. And remember, of course, as we go through these units, that because the enemy that you're fighting changes, it's perfectly reasonable to slot this guy in when you're fighting against like the Boo Babidi or Super Saiyan 3 Gohan, because they're int, and then switch him out once you're fighting one of the other ones where he would be type neutral, or obviously if he would be type disadvantage. So you have that option to mix and match the units as well, which is definitely a good idea. But obviously somebody like Xeno Goku, he guards and has damage reduction, so he's just great all the way through. So next up we have Supreme Kai of Time. She also has a 100% heroes lead, just like the Goku and the Vegeta. She's really good though because obviously she is a support unit. She gives a minimum of 30% attack and defense, and then she does have a chance to get the additional attack 12% and 12% defense. They proc separately, so you might get one or both or none, but you're always going to get a minimum of 30% and 3 key. Also, as well as chance of performing a crit, which is nice. So she's a very good support unit to bring on the team. She massively raises defense on super, so having her in slot 3, she's obviously going to super attack first, and then her defense is reasonably good. If you do get dupes for her, you obviously want to go full additional, because if she double supers, massively raises defense is a 100% raise. So if she double supers, her defense actually becomes ridiculously high. So she is very, very good. Next up, we have the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks. So obviously, as you're going through the stages, you could start EZAing him up the levels. But before he gets his EZA, he's still pretty decent defensively. He has a high chance to guard. He stacks defense for 9 turns. So once he's gotten a couple of supers off, his defense is very good. The only thing you have to be careful of course, is the high chance to guard. If it doesn't go off, then he can take some big damage. The final few stages are against the Tech Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. So in the final few stages, remember this guy will have type disadvantage. So if that chance to guard doesn't go off, then he could potentially take quite a bit of damage. So that is something that you will need to be aware of. So then we have the Baby Janemba. He's another one who's going to be EZAing as you go through. But even without it, like one of the main things that he had as part of his kit, which he keeps, of course, is the 50% chance to dodge built in. So obviously the rest of his stats get a bump, but recovering HP at the start of the turn is always nice, especially because you can't use items. His defense is not the best, and he has no real good super attack effect, but the 50% chance to dodge definitely could come in clutch, and potentially save you from a run-ending super attack. So definitely could be pretty useful if you have him. He's one of the only heroes units that I don't have, which is unfortunate. So once I've done all of my summons, if I still don't have him, I'll hopefully be able to pick him up with either the stone or coins, if that ends up being a thing. Next up, we have the Dark Masked King. So Dark Masked King is actually really, really good. Unfortunately, he's limited on a lot of the other teams that he's on because he has to have a hero's ally on the same turn. And obviously, in this event, that's exactly what we're going to have. So he's got 100% attack and defense, then he gets an additional 100% defense for 5 turns after he gets hit, and he guards if there is another Dragon Ball Heroes ally. So again, he becomes one of the best tanks. You put him in slot 1, he takes that first hit, immediately gets extra defense as well as guarding. He also recovers 10% of damage dealt as HP. So in the last few stages, when you're fighting that Tech Gotenks, obviously he's going to be able to do that little bit more damage, and he's going to be giving you a nice heal. I would probably put this guy right up at the top alongside units like the Super Saiyan 3 Xeno Goku, where if you have this guy, he absolutely should be on the team for this EZA 100%. He's going to be very, very good. So obviously a good link partner for him is the AGL Black Masked Saiyan, aka Vegeta. He's not as good defensively, so you definitely need to be careful with him. His attack and defense is pretty decent at the start of turn. He also gets extra ki, so you only actually have to get 10 ki in order for him to super, which is nice. He gets an extra 60% attack and medium chance to crit when there's another 3 or more crossover allies on the team, which obviously is going to be fulfilled with a full Dragon Ball Heroes team. So yeah, he can be pretty good in events where you can lower the enemy's attack. That kind of takes care of his disadvantage a little bit, because obviously both him and the Dark Masked King do that. So they work really well as a rotation together. Dark Masked King tanking in slot 1, then Vegeta in slot 2, and they both lower attack. But obviously you can't do that in this event, and the final stage is Tech. So this guy is more of an honourable mention. Good link partner for Dark Masked King, but not necessarily the best unit to bring. Next up, we have the AGL Toa. Again, she's one of the units that's EZAing, but even without it, the fact that she has the recovers 100% HP when HP is 30% or less, once only, is obviously very good. She also buffs extreme class allies, so if you are bringing a more extreme built team, then obviously she's really, really good for that as well. So she can be pretty decent. Just remember that pre-EZA, her defense is terrible. So again, in the last stages against the Tech enemy, you have to be very, very careful with her. So next up, we have the Boo Barbady. Again, one of the ones that's going to EZA, so he'll get better as you go through the stages. But he's got reasonably decent defense. He gives all allies more defense when your HP is 81% or more. And then he recovers some HP and gives allies an attack buff when your HP is 80% or less. So at the start, he's going to be giving people extra defense. And then once you get through the first couple of turns and you're taking some damage, then he's going to be giving everyone extra attack, which can help you finish off the event quicker. And he is in, so he's got type advantage in the later stages. So he's definitely going to be a solid option to bring. Next up, we have Silas. I really like Silas. Unfortunately, he's a little bit outdated now, but he's still really good. He's a support unit for artificial life forms, which there's a couple of heroes units that are that, but also time travelers, which of course everybody is. And then he fuses on the 5th turn and transforms into the fused Sealess, and then he is actually pretty powerful. He gets most of his defense on super though, so he's not a slot 1 unit. But I feel like he could easily fill the slot of being like the 6th unit on your team if you need to fill out the team, and just have him as a 3rd slot floating unit, and he will still be pretty decent. And then the last honourable mention that I brought up here was the physical Cumber. In the first couple of stages, you might be able to make use of his passive, where when he gets hit by a super attack enemy, he has a 50% chance, a super type enemy, could be a super attack, but if it's super type enemy, has a 50% chance to stun them for the rest of the turn. Obviously in an EZA, once you get past the first few stages, you can't stun, so then that becomes pretty useless. And after that, his defense is okay. But one of the things that he definitely could be useful for is once you get below 50% HP, he has a 50% chance to transform into the Giant Ape. So then you get a couple of turns where you just get to deal free damage. And he does have Ki +2 as part of his Great Ape passive, so it's a lot easier to super attack with him, especially if you did pull the God Trunks and you're using him as the leader. It means that with double 4 key leads, if you're using a friend God Trunks, this Great Ape Cumber literally has 10 key at the start of the turn, so not going to be difficult to get super attacks with him at all, and that's going to give you some free damage. So there are a couple of units I know I missed out on, so we're going to go back to the list here. Super Saiyan 4 Broly, obviously, is a powerhouse. His defense isn't crazy, so I would say be careful when you're going up against the int stages, but him on rotation with Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, he could quite easily clean out the AGL enemies pretty much by himself. And then I did forget, of course, because they're all the way down here in the Unawakened section, we have Super Saiyan 4 Gohan. He does need to be on a team with Great Ape allies, so to run him successfully on this team, you need to be running double Super Saiyan 4 Vegito leads, and then all of the Super Saiyan 4s, or you can replace one of them with Cumber, because he's on Giant Ape power. Or you've got the Bardock, who just requires crossover allies, which obviously everybody is. So both of these units are really good. Gohan, it can be a little bit tricky with the team building to get him to work, just because of his passive relying on Giant Ape allies, but Bardock especially is very good. When you're on full health, he gets like a guaranteed crit and has type advantage, so he's really good. Gohan is super good defensively if you do bring those Giant Ape allies, so very strong. I didn't mention the Super Saiyan 3 Gohan because he's not super good defensively. He is one of the units that's EZAing as well though, so as you go through the EZA stages, he will obviously become much better. The Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is probably one of the worst Heroes units until he gets his EZA, and then I personally think his EZA is one of the better ones. So you can't really use him until the EZA is pretty much completely finished, which is unfortunate. Another one that could be interesting, I guess, is this Saiyaman 3, who technically is Trunks. I say technically, it is Trunks. He's interesting because you need him to be on a full Time Travelers team in order for him to have decent stats, which obviously he will be here because all the Heroes units are Time Travelers, and then he has counters. So he does lose a bit of defense after he takes the first hit, but I think for AGL enemies, you could quite easily switch this guy in, maybe for taking out one of the STR units you're using. And if you get a good rotation with a bunch of normal attacks, he could dish out a ton of damage. So he could actually be quite useful against the AGL enemies. So there you go. That is my top picks and honourable mentions for Dragon Ball Heroes. As I said at the start, if there's any units you think I should have talked about or any aspects of a unit that I covered that I missed, let me know down below in the comments section. And let me know what your team is going to look like for this Heroes EZA event. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.